Hello, hello, welcome to the finale. Woohoo! Give yourselves a round of applause because we made it. We made it to week 5. We are so excited to see you all here. I did see, oh gosh, I just lost your name. Somebody has their machine at the shop, but they did just finish. Let Freedom Ring on a smaller machine that they have. And then I also see someone's got flooding in Iowa, so that's not good. Miss Gloria's got 91-degree weather. It's been hot and rainy here in Ohio lately too, for sure. And I think, Linda, you look frozen to me, so I'm hoping. Yeah, it's Sandra. That's who it was. Sandra Smith. We've been talking to you on other lives this past week, I feel like, too. So hopefully your machine gets back from the machine hospital very, very soon. All right. Well, I think we're going to wait for Linda to reconnect here. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me okay. I think I'm good, but we're going to give her a second to kind of reconnect. Apparently the internet is not liking Linda today, but we are able to stream to Facebook. So small wins. Well, okay, good. Sue says you can hear me. So that's great. Okay. Hi, Linda.
I'm here for the moment. I seem to be having a couple of issues. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm a little nervous because I cannot teach this class. So you think what we should do, since
I'm having connect.
I think you're just going to have to take it away. Just do your thing. And we'll hope for the best. You look okay right now.
Talking to me.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
She's working it out. Your sister is in the other room cackling, by the way. Bear with us momentarily. We're getting Linda's connectivity issues all hopefully situated. All right. Well, while she's working on that, let me know in the comments where you're at. No, it is a real mystery, Sandy. How do we make our internet work? That's the mystery. So as we're working on her getting back in and connected, let me know where you're at. Are you caught up to week 5 and ready to talk about edge to edge in the back of the quilt? Or are you still working? Either way, there's no wrong answer. It's not a race. Brenda said that they had a storm. Yeah, apparently there's some storms and some flooding going on around the country. On week 5, Terry says. Brenda's ready for week 5. It's okay, Jennifer. This might be a good sign.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm going to let you just take it away.
Everybody
and we'll
get a little prayer for us.
Yes.
Well, I'd love to take it away if my internet stays on. Hey, Sue, how are you? I see a couple of names I recognize. So I'll do the best I can with what I have to work with. I'm having a little bit here. We'll just give it a shot. So behind me on the wall is of the mystery quilt. I'm going to try to get you a little bit closer so you can see it because it doesn't show up really well too far away. Look at that. that is your edge to edge design. And this is the big one. This is the 8-inch one.
It's gorgeous.
So what do you
I think the back is so pretty. So pretty.
Thank you. Thank you. It doesn't show up far away, but I did it black on white. So then if you could bring up my demo cam, Aubrey, hopefully.
Yep, there you go.
Here's my little finished quilt, all sewn together. Got my binding on there, except for the label, which I'm going to show you today, if everything goes well. And here's the back of this one. So this is the small edge to edge design. So today we're going to talk about finishing your quilt, putting the back on. I think a lot of you have already started to join your blocks together. So we're going to talk about all of the finishing. So in my instructions for Divine Divide, this is week 5, putting it all together. It does give you a diagram and a breakdown of how to sew your blocks together. We did cover a little bit of it last week. But basically, you're going to join them with the same match point technique we did in putting all these little blocks together. So it goes pretty quickly. So that's going to be pages 1 through 3, putting it together. And then we're going to talk about layering. Option 1 to back your quilt is a single layer of unquilted fabric. So let's talk about that. So this happens to be, if you remember, this is my bonus block from when we very first started, and it's not backed yet. So if you take your backing fabric, just a single layer of fabric, lay it right side down on your table, so the wrong side is facing up, and then you take your finished quilt top and you center it over that backing, lay it right sides up, smooth it all out. You can put a few safety pins in it. I like to stay away from the seams if possible. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch in the ditch. And that's what I've done on this sample. And you can stitch in the ditch using either a straight stitch or a serpentine stitch. Hopefully you can see that serpentine stitch right here. Or you could use a straight stitch. And on the back, this is what it will look like. You'll have your serpentine stitch right here, and I did a little straight stitch here. The stitching, I like to use my monopoly thread in my needle, which is my clear thread by Superior. It's a really fine clear thread. I like to use that in the needle. I also really love to use my pre-wound monopoly bobbins. So you can wind your own bobbin as well, but I really like to use this. If you don't like to use it in your bobbin, you can wind yourself a bobbin that is a thread that will match the back of your quilt. So you can just, if you have a white thread, white fabric in the back, you could just wind a white bobbin and then you could stitch that way. So that's how you would do a regular backing without any quilting. So now we're going to talk about, I'll move this, we're going to talk about the edge-to-edge quilting. So on your instructions, there's, and this is optional, the edge-to-edge quilting on the back of your quilt is entirely optional. You can finish it the way I just showed you on the other sample, but I like to add a little bit of pizzazz to the back of my quilt, especially if it's one I'm going to actually be using as a quilt as opposed to a wall hanging. If it's a wall hanging, I'm not going to put the extra work into it. I will just go ahead and put a regular back on it. But if it's going to be used as a regular quilt, I do like to have something kind of fun on the back. So that's why we have our edge-to-edge design. And we have a page for your 6-inch quilt, and we have a page for your 8-inch quilt. So I'm going to be working with the 6-inch quilt today. And this figure right here tells you that you need to mark your centers of your backing. It tells you your quilt back fabric size that you need to make, and it also tells you your quilt back batting size that you need to make. You want to have your batting or your flannel just a little bit bigger. I like to use a pre-washed flannel on the back of this when I do it, as opposed to a batting. But you could use a batting, just use something very thin, the thinnest batting that you can find. So once you mark your centers, then it has you mark your vertical lines and then your horizontal lines. So I'm not going to give you measurements because I don't want to give numbers out. You're going to want to refer to your directions so that you have the right one, either the 6-inch or the 8-inch. But I've already got my centers here, and then I've got my vertical lines. Now I'm ready to mark my horizontal lines. So you'll just put your ruler down. I've already pre-marked the number that I needed. I am using a Frixon pen, but you'll use whatever type of marking pen will work with the fabric that you're using. So that's what you'll do. You'll get your entire back all marked just as the directions show us right here. So I've got my vertical lines marked, the measurement that it says, and I've got my horizontal lines marked, the measurements that it says. And then I will take a piece of either batting or the pre-washed flannel, and I will layer that. So I've already got one started here. So I've actually got my pre-washed flannel layered with my quilt back. And then we will start the quilting process. When we turn to the next page, after you mark it, we then have to mark your A roll, because we have our edge to edge 6-inch. This one is, there's an A and a B. So this row right here is labeled A. This row right here is going to be my B row. So I have A, and then B, 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 and B. So now that it's all labeled and marked, the next thing we have to do is hoop it. So I've got a hoop right here. And your hoop will generally have a little notch or some type of mark at the bottom and the top of it. It'll also have some type of mark on the horizontal line. So your horizontal and vertical line should have a mark on your hoop. And what you'll do is lay that right over your markings on your fabric. Just like that, get it centered. And then I really like to use a painter's tape. This is a bit wider than I really needed. You can get by with something a little bit skinnier. But I have this and it works. So I tore off a piece that's about as wide as the top of my hoop, or you can do it in little sections as well. And I made a little slit in it where that notch is. And I'm just going to use this to hold this onto my fabric. Do the same at the bottom. If your hoop is really large, you could even do it at the sides, depending on the size of your hoop. I'll just put one on there just to show you. So Linda asked about, let me put that up, see if I can do that. I have a dark backing and have trouble seeing the markings. What would you suggest I use? Probably I don't know if I've seen a white Fix-On pen, but you could try just a chalk pencil, something you could brush off easily or wash off easily. So I've got a little bit of tape on there. Looks like a lot of tape because it's so, thank you, Aubrey, because it's so wide. So now the tape is so that I can pick this up. See, I can pick this up and slide my ring that goes on the underneath side. I can slide it under there without anything moving. And I've got my little hoop screw down here loosened, and this will just set right into place, just like that. Clamp it down, and I'm ready to take it to the machine, and it didn't move on me. I am going to remove the tape, and I save that for my next one. That line is still in the right place. That line is in the right place. Nothing moved. It works so well. This one is still lined up. And this one is still lined up. Now, a lot of you might have really fancy machines with all kinds of fun little cameras and iPads. I know mine has all that, but I really like this just simple down and dirty, hoop it up and go method. It's my favorite.
And Linda, I think you did already say this, but you did pre-wash this flannel, correct?
I don't know if I said it, but yeah, I would totally recommend that you pre-wash your flannel because flannel tends to shrink. It has I don't know what it is about flannel, but it shrinks excessively. So definitely I don't pre-wash my backing, but I do pre-wash flannel. And of course I don't pre-wash batting either.
Okay.
Just the flannel because it does shrink quite a bit. That was a good question.
Whoops.
Okay, I'm going to try to switch cameras. So let's hope everything goes well.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully we don't make everybody dizzy. But we actually did, I'm going the wrong way. Let me back up. We actually did just open registration on our brand new workshop. Can you guys believe it's almost July? What is going on? But we have the Summer Breeze, which I always want to sing the song. I'm not going to do that on the, on the live. But Summer Breeze is coming July 9th and July 10th. And it is going to be magnificent. Annie is the designer on this project. And so her and I are going to come live for 2 days. She's going to stitch out some blocks. We're going to talk trimming, all the things that we normally do with this brand new design. And we have the cutest little free gift coaster, which is the little flower that you see there on the screen. So you can just go ahead and get registered for that. And in the meantime, it looks like, Linda, you ready?
I hope so.
Okay. Don't breathe, right?
No, I'm just worried about the internet.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to put my hoop on. Everybody can see okay. Hopefully I've turned off some of the lights on the machine. It looks like we can see pretty good.
Looks good to me.
I just want to say again, I don't know how much I covered this. There is an A file and a B file. And basically they are just mirror images of each other. And that way when you do your A row and then your B row, these designs do not line up directly under each other. They're sort of offset. So that is the reason why we have an A and a B. So you definitely need to mark A and B.
Linda, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think you're frozen up again. Give us a minute, guys. We'll get her back on here.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you make my demo cam bigger?
There you go.
Thank you. So we are going to lower the needle and make sure it goes dead center of that crosshair that I marked, which mine isn't, so I'm going to have to move it up just a little. So just go up and down until you think it's in the right place. And then I have a little bit of a tip. And hopefully this won't confuse. That's a little hard to see. I think maybe I'll do this later when I can show you a little bit better because this is dark here. But that's where the design should go, dead center. And I'm going to check my, my placement. I'm going to show you this a little bit later, but I'm going to skip ahead to an area on the design that I know will sort of land where I want it to go. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to move it down a little bit. All right, I'm just going to pray it's working. Placement. I'll move my camera down.
All right, I'm gonna just share my screen while we get Linda back in action. So as I was saying, you can head over to the website, Summer Breeze, and you can click register and get all signed up. And this is happening in 12 days, believe it or not, which is crazy. So we're looking forward to seeing you all there, and you can get your free gift.
Cool. We love free gifts.
Yes. Yes.
Use my camera right here in front of my face. Okay,
You
so
got it.
Here's our design. Let's unhoop it. So I sewed 3 of them in black, 1 of them in purple. I don't know if you can tell that, but it looks pretty good.
So pretty.
It all sort of blends together. What I was trying to show over by the machine, but it was a little bit dark. I went ahead, and you can do this if you want to. As you go through and quilt your whole back, these placement lines that we drew are pretty much guidelines. They're the center point of each design. But as you stitch each design, you're going to get a little bit of draw up of the thread, and you may need to adjust slightly as you go, but this is a good start. So if you can, with your software on your sewing machine, print up an actual size of your design. And then I went through it on my machine, and I knew that this was stitch 157, this was stitch 344, and so on as I went around the perimeter. Then I could go ahead and hop to that particular stitch and see where my placement is. And if I need to do some slight adjustments, I can do that on the fly. And it works very well. There's enough of a little bit of a give between the designs that you can do that. So hopefully that makes sense to you, but this was very helpful to me. And even though this is a B, even the A design, it might be mirrored, but that 157 is still in the same place. It's just mirrored. It's just flipped over. So it's just very helpful to get your design lined up. And usually what I do, I like to start in the middle, and I'll go across, and then I'll start working my way down, and then I'll start working my way up until I'm completely finished. And if you have all your A's and B's marked, you shouldn't have any trouble at all getting them in the right place. And just use that little tip I gave you with the stitch numbers just to see how it's landing. Any questions? I know I froze a little bit.
I've got a couple. Brenda asked, would a magnetic hoop work the best?
You can use a magnetic hoop if you want. I do have one for my machine, but today I'm showing, like I said, the low-tech version with a regular hoop. But if you have the tools and know how to use them, I would definitely do it. And
we lost you again, Linda. Let's see if she gets back online. In the meantime, I thought this was a funny comment. Jacqueline said, how are we ever supposed to get housework and gardening done with all these new designs? I don't know. I can't get it done at my house either, if it makes you feel any better. And then we also had Carolyn said the painter's tape is a great one to use on other placement designs as well. Yeah. It's a really, really good tip for sure. You kind of cut out when you were talking about hoop. I know, but basically they can try it with magnetic. You kind of went more the low tech way is what I'm hearing. And then we also had a question from Nancy. What size hoop are you using? I think she means which one are you actually using for your demonstration?
So today I'm doing the 6-inch design, and this is my hoop that's about 5.5 by 8. So that fit the 6-inch design. But since we're talking about hoops, I do have a Giganto hoop, which I know a lot of you do. And I was able to actually stitch 3 in one hoop, hooping. I know, it was great. So if you can get 2 or 3 in one hooping, because I was able to take my center and line it up in the middle. And then I had one here, one here, one here. And I took my design itself. Let's see, where did that go? So here's my quilting design. I brought one design in. I did rotate it because the hoop was rotated. I stitched one here, then I moved it here, then I moved it here. So that's something else you can try as well. So instead of hooping 3 different times, stitching 3 different times, I hooped once, and I was able to stitch 3 of them in this hoop. Now, the bigger design, it depends on your hoop size, if you can get 2 or 3 in the hoop. So that does help a lot.
Okay. And then I also had a question, or this was kind of like a little tip, I think. You were talking about printing it on that paper.
Yeah. That's great, Linda. You could sew it on a piece of stabilizer. That will work perfect if you do not have any type of software for your machine to print that out. That's perfect to sew it on a piece of stabilizer. The other cool thing is you could cut it out real close to the edge of the design. So when you lay it on there, you can see exactly where it's going to go.
Good tips. Really. And then I also have 2 very similar questions. One was what happens about the side pieces? They are smaller, and someone else on Facebook said, how do you handle the partial blocks on the edges? I think these are kind of asking the same thing.
There are no partial blocks. They are full blocks because this is the center of your design. So this is a full
Got it.
block. There's no partial.
Okay, cool.
There's
All
just your A and your B. So do you guys want to talk about label?
Yeah, I did add, I popped one more question up on here. Could you do the marking on the flannel is the question. I think that's exactly what you're doing, right?
No, I'm doing it on the back of the quilt. I'm not doing it on the flannel. Then I put flannel under it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was confused by that. So that's good. Okay, we got it. All right, label.
Okay. So there is in your week 5 folder, there is a label that you can stitch out. Looking for my corner of my quilt. So this is it. It stitches out on a 7-inch square piece of fabric. It does, the directions say to hoop a lightweight cutaway. I didn't have any, believe it or not, so I hooped a lightweight tearaway, worked just fine. And then it does a placement stitch to hold your fabric down, and then you stitch this label. And then you can either fold it directly in half like this, and that's your label. But this time I think I decided I'm going to fold it on that basting line from the water soluble thread, which means I'm going to trim this. So let me do that real quick. It's just a real cute little simple label that you can put on. Give this a trim. So there's my finished label. I did leave the stabilizer in there. And then I have one corner of my quilt that I did not stitch my binding yet. I've got my binding all completely hand stitched. This label is going to go right there in the corner. And then when I bring my binding around, put a couple pins in it.
The internet does not love us today. We're breaking the internet. I did see a question about designs and a long arm. These are embroidery files. So these files will only work with your embroidery machine. Okay, she's back. Linda, I see your camera moving, but I cannot hear you. It sounds like the label is in with your week 5, Pat. So check your week 5 files and it's probably in there. There we go.
Oh, this is fun. So here's my cute little label. Is my camera upside down or right side up? There we go. No, that's right side. This way.
Yeah, it's like upside down, but your label's facing upside down.
Maybe that's the problem. Okay. So there it is. So I just stuck that into my open side of my binding, and then I'll finish hand sewing it and my quilt will be finished.
Yay! That's awesome. Gloria said that there's storms around at where she is, and it's wreaking havoc with her Wi-Fi. So who knows? But I think we got through it. Did she freeze again? It's not funny, Sarah.
How dare she?
Yes. Okay. So let's wrap it up with the quilt label that Linda just showed you is in week 5. So check your files. And then if you guys have any questions, I know we had lots of internet issues with Linda's side. So if you are not sure or have a question, please reach out. I'm going to pop Nina's phone number and email up on screen. And so if there was something that maybe you didn't catch with all the tech stuff, just get a hold of us and we will help you out. Looks like you're back. You quick moment of so like now's your chance. Is there anything else you want to get out before we freeze?
Me personally, I don't think so. I think I covered it all. Although I feel like it was a little sketchy. I apologize. I don't know what to do about it.
Okay, someone said, what are these facing strips? I'm not sure what she means. Facing strips.
Okay, so she's referring to, you can either do a binding or finish your quilt with a facing.
Oh,
so we
okay.
give quick directions on how to do a facing. So instead of doing a binding and going around the corner, the facing, you'll have to read the directions. And I know we have one of our quilts, we did that on the barn quilt. There was a tutorial on that. So you could go and find that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're looking for tutorials or like if we mentioned like we showed that in a video, go to our Facebook group. And in fact, Nina, if you wouldn't mind dropping the link to that, but in our Facebook group, it's also on YouTube if you do a search. But in our Facebook group, it's organized by guides. So you can just click guides, find the barn quilt, and there's a whole one on facing. Okay. Okay. How wide did you cut the binding? Did you just use the trimmer?
You could, I actually did it 2¼ inches. 2½ to 2¼ depending on your preference. I like it a little bit skinnier.
Okay, and then Helen, if you're still confused, reach out to us. You can either email or call us and we can get you in touch with Linda, or ask maybe a specific question a part you're not understanding, let us know that. Let's see. Yeah, you can definitely rewatch, Lisa. I know you missed the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Jackie's asking how to attach the label. I think we did talk about that. You're going to put it underneath your binding and then hand sew your binding around the edges here. And then I do hand stitch it right here. So it's all done by hand.
I just love the back. It really does add some really cool detail.
Yeah, I love it. Let's see if we can show that some more. Oh, and you can also see my stitch in the ditch here, because I think someone was inquiring about that a few weeks ago, if that stitch in the ditch really interrupts the design. And
I don't think it does either. I think you can still get a really good feel for the overall look of it. And how cool that it's an embroidery file, but it really does look like long arm when you're done with it. So the edge to edge, Susan, is for the very back of your quilt. So the front of the quilt are all of the blocks. We're looking at Susan's question here, and where I was telling her the edge to edge is just for the back, and the blocks that we've done for the last 4 weeks are the front of the quilt. So hopefully that helps.
Yep.
Okay, Linda wants to know, how do you attach it to the front? Which I think we were just kind of talking about when we were looking at the back, but maybe you could explain that a little bit more.
How do we attach the back to the front? So you're going to put the flannel side of your quilting design. So this would be the flannel side. This is the actual front side, the right side of the back. And then you will take your quilt. So this is a finished quilt, and you will lay that right on top of it, and you'll stitch in the ditch just like you do when you're doing one without the quilting on the back. And that's what you see here. You see my stitch in a ditch right here. You can barely see it because I'm using a monopoly thread in my bobbin, or you could use a matching, like I could have used green, but I did use the monopoly in my bobbin. And I stitched right in the seam ditch right here. So the attaching the front and the back is the same, whether you do an edge to edge on the back. It's the same as when you do no edge to edge on the back. The attaching is exactly the same.
And Rianne says she's scared. She's scared to try it. I mean,
try a couple of them on a little scrap of fabric like I did here, and you'll see it's not too bad. You can just mark up a few different lines and just try a couple of them, and you'll see it's pretty easy and fun to do. And it's kind of forgiving. There's going to be some, if you really look at my quilt back, you're going to see some where I got a little too close and some a little too far. But when you look at the whole thing when it's finished, all you see is the texture and the overall design, and it looks really nice. I love it.
Okay, I think this might be the last question unless I see something else pop in here. But Sue asked, any tips for staying straight when you're doing stitch in the ditch?
I like to use my walking foot when I do stitch in the ditch, and I just go kind of a medium speed, and you just have to follow the seam line. It's not too hard. You just stay right along that seam line. And if you use monopoly thread and you waver a little bit, you're not going to see it. You could also use, Sarah talked yesterday about the serpentine stitch that goes back and forth. That's also a nice alternative for stitch in the ditch. You can see that right here. You can kind of see the little serpentine stitch right there. But that's another alternative, because if you go a little crooked, you don't see it because it like centers over your seam line. So there's a couple of different ways you could do it.
Okay, and then I also did notice just some definitely some comments saying, don't be scared, you will love it. Don't be scared, it's so fun. Maybe they did this when we did the barn quilt, the people who are saying this, but lots of encouraging comments to give it a whirl if you've never done it before. So yeah. Okay. All right. I think most of these other things we sort of answered. Gloria asked, could you use an edge foot?
You could use an edge foot. I prefer, on a quilt with layers and seams, I prefer not to have that bar in my way. I just like to use a walking foot. But if you like to use an edge foot, you can. You can see, I don't know if you can see right here, but I missed just a hair off the ditch right here. But nobody's going to see that because it's monopoly thread. But here I am showing you.
And it's still kind of hard to see with you pointing at it.
Right.
So yeah. But okay. That's the finale. Like, we know there was some tech issues, but we stuck it out. I think we got it done. But again, if you have any follow-up questions, yes, Karen, we could show the front. If you have any follow-up questions, Nina's contact information is down below as well. I'll put Linda up on screen because someone asked to see the front. Look at it. It's so pretty. You got that baby done. I asked you, I think last week, are you going to finish it and turn it into a quilt? Or
yes.
And you're like, yes.
Yeah. All I have left to do is to stitch this little corner of the binding.
Yes.
Completely done. So
awesome.
I'll get that done tonight. So yeah, and there, I saw a lot of you had the same colorway finished.
Yeah.
So it's cute.
It's really pretty. And honestly, the cameras just don't do it justice. It's really, really pretty in person too. So yeah. All right. Let me ask you this, because I just now remembered. some years past, we do cyber quilt shows. We should change that name. Cyber's so old school. Like, we've done this for how many years now? What about a virtual quilt show? Does that sound more 2024? But basically, you would just email me your photos of your finished quilt. We pop it in a movie and showcase all your guys' work. You guys want to do that? Sound good? I will put out some information.
Love to see everybody's finished quilt.
Yeah, I'll put out some information and we'll give you a little time to finish, so it won't be like it has to be done right now or anything like that. So yeah. Okay, anything else in there that you see that you want to talk about, or are we good? We're finished, finito, week 5, mystery quilt.
I think we're good. Should we talk really quick? There was a couple little updates on the Sarah's Choice directions.
Yeah.
So people may want to look at that. Minor things that people found. So we updated that. And I think that's about it. I don't think
so
just a couple people.
And I think most people finished it and didn't have any trouble. So it was right. So if you haven't gotten to week 4 yet, you can just go back into your files and re-download week 4 and use those fresh files. If you're done with week 4 and you didn't even notice it, then don't worry about it. You could always download it so you have the finished stuff, but no need to redo anything. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Give us a couple weeks.
No,
we have
all it was a couple mislabeled blocks, but nobody, I don't think anyone noticed but one person.
Okay. All right. So no biggie there, but it is updated and available for you in your files. And I was just noticing Brenda's comment said, give us a couple weeks, please, for the quilt show. And I will do that for sure. I know there's a holiday. She said there's a holiday coming up. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Linda. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see everyone's quilts. So we'll do a little quilt show too.
Great. Thanks, guys. Sorry about the delays, but we'll get it worked out.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.